Namaste everyone, and welcome to yet another video from our Nakshatra series. Today's video will be dedicated to Dhanishta Nakshatra, presided by 8 Vasus, who are actually the elemental gods, the gods of nature, the gods who sustain this planet Earth, and also the gods who are actually responsible for taking our prayers, every intention that we have in mind, to the Supreme Lord. So let's begin. Dhanishta Nakshatra, similarly to Shravana, is very intuitive in nature, because the very symbol of Dhanishta Nakshatra is a drum. And what is the drum in our physical body? Is the drum of our heartbeat. So Dhanishta Nakshatra natives are often very well attuned actually to their inner rhythm, to their inner voice. You see, Shravana Nakshatra natives, they sometimes may doubt their inner voice, or the voice of their intuition might be sometimes clouded by their thoughts, emotions, and feelings. But Dhanishta Nakshatra natives, usually when they feel something deep within them, they just follow that. They just go for it. Dhanishta Nakshatra is also the exaltation place for Mars, at least the Capricorn part of it, which is why it is also known to be one of the most courageous nakshatras. It is really the nakshatra that is capable to help us overcome any fear we might have. Natives who have significant placements in Dhanishta Nakshatra, not just ascendant or the moon, usually have that courage to move forward through things no matter what. And that's a really beautiful quality. You see, Dhanishta Nakshatra is actually bridging sidereal Capricorn and sidereal Aquarius, both signs ruled by Saturn. Both signs actually represent zodiacal muladhara chakra, or the root chakra, which interestingly enough, also as its shadow side, has fears that may sometimes stop us from moving forward. But Dhanishta Nakshatra, bridging those two signs and really being kind of right at the center of that zodiacal root chakra, is actually the nakshatra who helps us to dissolve all fears and move courageously forward. However, whenever Dhanishta Nakshatra is actually afflicted, if there's some unfavorable connection out there, it may be also the source of fears that we experience, or even some phobias. Dhanishta Nakshatra natives, again, since it's the exaltation place for Mars, they tend to be very confident as well, which is again quite different from Shravana, They usually are quite confident about themselves, and even sometimes they might be a little overconfident, to the extent of actually maybe not taking the feedback or the warnings or the words of caution from other people into consideration. So that's definitely also Dhanishta Nakshatra's blind spot, that sometimes this confidence can turn into overconfidence. It can turn into pride and arrogance as well. Now, one of the symbols of Dhanishta Nakshatra is actual ladder, which is, of course, very interesting because, again, Dhanishta Nakshatra represents our root chakra, kind of like the lowest place in our energy body. And the ladder symbolically represents growth, and our consciousness, our energy growing up. But naturally, Dhanishta Nakshatra natives, again, exaltation place of Mars, they are very ambitious in nature. They are very growth and progress oriented, which again can be a really great thing and can make these people achieve really great things in life. But sometimes they might have also the tendency to be overly ambitious, to either aim too high or have too unrealistic aim, or to pay too much attention to actual achievement and progress, which can make it very hard for them to sometimes just relax, into the present moment. Since Dhanishta Nakshatra is ruled by Mars, and it is also the exaltation place of Mars, naturally it's also a very, very independent, very individualistic nakshatra. These people love doing things alone and they're very good at it as well. Again, sometimes you may notice a little bit of that hyper-independence trait in them as well, which means sometimes, they might be too focused on, let me just do everything alone, let me just do everything myself. And they are capable to do that, that's true. But sometimes they might be able to actually achieve more if they connect to others. Again, let's remember this is the nakshatra, the lunar mansion presided by 8 gods, 8 Vasus, who are actually the helpers of humanity, who are the elemental gods. And sometimes opening ourselves up for help can make us achieve greater results too. Since Dhanishta Nakshatra bridges the 2 signs of Saturn and is also the nakshatra ruled by Mars, these natives are usually very dedicated. When they really believe in something, when they're really passionate about something, they can be very disciplined about it, very determined about it, and they can be very dedicated towards their goal, very passionate about their goal, which is actually one of the most beautiful qualities of this nakshatra, because without dedication, we can't manifest anything in life. And Dhanishta Nakshatra in particular can be actually quite good in really manifesting things, in bringing them from the realm of idea into the realm of material world. The very name Dhanishta means the wealthiest, the most prosperous, the most abundant. And indeed, abundance is a very important topic often for Dhanishta Nakshatra natives. Most of the times, if the planets seated in this lunar mansion are happy, those natives can be very good in actually generating wealth. However, the shadow side of that is that sometimes Dhanishta natives can be quite materialistic, and then they can also manifest quite a bit of greed. Especially the Aquarius side of Dhanishta Nakshatra, because remember, Aquarius is the original 11th house, one of the Trishadaya houses, which represent 3 negative qualities of our mind. Aquarius specifically representing the quality of lobha or greed, this feeling like there's never enough, I always need to get more, achieve more, have more. And of course, in such a state of mind, it's sometimes really hard to actually just relax and enjoy what you already have and be grateful for what you already have. Which is why daily gratitude practice, literally writing down things you are already grateful for, things that are already present in your life, can be a very powerful and uplifting practice for the Dhanishta Nakshatra natives. Now, due to their ambition, due to their discipline, due to their dedication, and due to their actual groundedness and very practical approach to life, because again, this nakshatra bridges 2 signs of Shanidev, of Saturn, Dhanishta natives actually can be quite good leaders. They can really lead others, they can lead big projects. And again, if they want to become even better leaders than they already are, the only thing they really need to do is to include more feedback of others sometimes and listen more to the feedback of others rather than just pushing their own agenda forward, because that's their weakest point. Now, the Shakti or the power of the Dhanishta Nakshatra, known as Kyapayitri Shakti, it's also the Shakti to not just get abundance, but also to get fame. And actually, Dhanishta natives, because of their natural personality traits, they can get quite a lot of recognition for their work in life. And that's a very bright and beautiful side of it. Again, sometimes that recognition can fuel their pride, it can fuel their arrogance. So they need to be really careful of that, because very often the moment they become too proud and too arrogant about their achievements, you may start noticing that their fame, their abundance, their progress actually start declining. So it's very important for them to keep this quality in check. Dhanishta Nakshatra natives, since they are so independent, since this is Nakshatra ruled by Mars, and again bridges the 2 signs of Shanidev, they can be quite stubborn about things as well. And sometimes they can be stubborn in a really good way, in a way that actually helps them to achieve their goals, which is amazing. But sometimes they are unnecessarily stubborn against certain things, unnecessarily resisting certain things. And that is particularly true when it comes to their own self. You see, for me, always, whenever I make a reading for a person who has significant placements in Dhanishta Nakshatra, I know I need to be very cautious and in a very mindful and compassionate way offer feedback to that person. Because if you offer feedback in a way that is way too straightforward, it sometimes might really cause a lot of resistance in that person. So this is one of the biggest blind spots of Dhanishta Nakshatra, that they sometimes resist feedback, resist certain truths about themselves, and can be quite stubborn about some things too. Which again, great thing when you want to achieve your goals, but maybe not so great thing when you're actually trying to change yourself and some of your habits. Now, one of the best ways that Dhanishta Nakshatra natives can direct, their ambitious energy, their stubborn energy, their dedicated energy is actually towards service and uplifting the world. And it's really true, and this is what makes Dhanishta Nakshatra somewhat similar, to Uttarashada, that very often once they find, a purpose that they find, high enough, important enough, valuable enough, they can really fight for that good cause. They can really fight for the real change to happen in the world. And that is, such a power and such a privilege that you have if you have significant placements in this Dhanishta Nakshatra. If you have significant placements there, you should never underestimate the influence that you as an individual have upon the world and the positive change that you can bring into the world if you just align yourself with a high purpose. And that's a really beautiful thing, because I've seen numerous times when Dhanishta natives actually direct their energy towards actual service and uplifting, others. They also find a really lot of joy and fulfillment in that. Now, since the symbol of Dhanishta Nakshatra is a drum, sometimes also a flute, obviously it's a very musical nakshatra. Actually, all nakshatras in the sign of Capricorn, Uttarashada, Shravana, Dhanishta, are very musical. They are very influenced by what they are hearing. And that is something that also you can use to your advantage. Very often, one of the best ways to regulate themselves for Dhanishta Nakshatra natives is through music. Not just listening to music, performing music, singing, dancing, because it's the nakshatra of the rhythm. So especially rhythmic movements and dance, even things like martial arts, honestly, can be so helpful, for Dhanishta Nakshatra natives to really harness their energy and regulate themselves. So I hope you enjoyed this video on Dhanishta Nakshatra. And of course, if you want to learn more about it, you can check in the links below. I did entire, really, really long nakshatra course where every nakshatra is covered during the time of at least 3 hours, when we also look at different study cases and learn some details about special degrees within the nakshatras themselves. So you can check out the long nakshatra course. You can also purchase just the lesson dedicated to Dhanishta Nakshatra separately. And I will see you very soon for the next video dedicated to Shatabisha Nakshatra. Namaste.